Lena stared at the empty desk where Jonah used to sit. Every morning she waited for his soft laugh or his curious questions about her latest sketch. Now the chair was bare, and the silence felt as wide as the void between Earth and the outer colonies. She pressed her fingers against the smooth surface of the desk, as if she could still feel his presence there. But all she found was her own restless heartbeat and the sharp ache of absence. She closed her eyes and remembered how Jonah used to lean in close, whispering ideas about new worlds and daring experiments. The walls around her felt too small without him. Each evening, Lena walked the familiar paths through the academy courtyard, tracing the spots where she and Jonah had chased stray data drones or argued over which star systems held the best stories. The cool breeze of the evening smelled of ozone and distant Ingenza, reminder that life moved on, even when hers felt paused. She tried to send him messages through the station network, but her words always fell flat on the screen. "I miss you," she typed, then backspaced. "How are you?" she tried, then deleted again. The blinking cursor mocked her hesitation. She wanted to bridge the gap, but she did not know which words would reach across the miles. At night, Lena lay under a dome of artificial sky, watching simulated constellations drift by. She reached out to touch the glass, as if she could press through and find Jonah on the other side. She thought of the day he left, his small shuttle rising into the black. He had waved one last time, and she had forced a smile, hiding a storm of fear and longing behind bright eyes. She thought she was strong, that humanity's will could bend any challenge. But here alone in the hush of the observatory, her fey spirit felt thin and frayed. She missed the way Jonah believed in her drawings, how he said her art could light up the darkest starfield. The next morning, Lena decided to act. She gathered old holodiscs of their favorite adventures, the sketchbook where they drew alien landscapes side by side, and a small metal music box that Jonah gave her before he departed. She packed them into a crate and went to the station's courier bay. The attendants glanced at her carefully prepared bundle. "Special delivery?" one asked. Lena nodded, her throat tight. "To Colony H47. A friend who needs a reminder that someone cares." She watched as the shipping droid scanned her package, imprinting it with the colony's code. When the crate rolled away on a conveyor, a flutter of hope rose in her chest. It felt like the first step across a vast canyon. That evening, she opened her holocom and tried again to call Jonah directly. The connection failed. A chill ran through her veins, but she remembered the crate she sent and the human truth that persistence can build bridges out of thin air. She left a brief message instead, a simple greeting, a promise that something small was on its way. She pictured Jonah's face lighting up when he saw her drawings and heard the vintage tune from the music box. She imagined him touching the metal gears, feeling connected to her world even among unfamiliar strangers on his new home. In the days that followed, Lena threw herself into new projects. She sketched murals on the station's empty walls, each one inspired by memories of Jonah. She recorded short audio logs, describing the colors of sunrise over the academy dome, the playful chatter of fellow cadets, and the soft hum of systems at rest. She posted them on public channels, signing each one with Jonah's name alongside hers. It was as if she was sending him postcards through the network of humanity. Every note she left carried a piece of her heart across the galaxy. Late one night, her holocom flickered, and a small icon pulsed green. Lena's breath caught. Could it be him at last? She reached out, her fingers trembling, and tapped the screen. A simple text appeared. "Lena, I got your package. Thank you." Eyes welled with tears, not of sadness, but of blossoming hope. In that moment, she felt her HFY spirit surge, human determination, invention, and the unbreakable bond of friendship. Miles apart, they had found a way to touch each other's lives again. And though the distance remained, Lena knew they would chart a course back to each other, one message at a time. Jonah stood on the dusty plain of Colony H47, staring at the twin suns dipping below distant hills. He had dreamed of this assignment for years, a chance to chart unknown worlds and prove that humanity could thrive anywhere. But now, As the reds and golds of twilight painted the sky, he felt only emptiness. Every light year he put between himself and Earth had widened the gap in his heart. Each morning, Jonah woke to the hiss of air filters and the clank of robotic harvesters in the fields outside his habitat dome. He followed the same routine he had memorized at the academy: check environmental sensors, calibrate the terraforming drones, record daily progress logs. His work was important. Colonists depended on him, yet each task felt hollow without Lena's laughter echoing at his side. He remembered how she used to sketch the sunrise over Fortunate Station, her eyes shining as she imagined new colors. Here, the sunrise was real, but it offered him no comfort. Jonah tried to send Lena messages through the Olo-Com network, but the long transmission delays meant his voice arrived days later, lost in static or buried under other data. "I miss you." He typed again and again, but he hesitated before sending. What could simple words do across the void? He feared his messages would vanish into the silent drift of space, never reaching her ears. So he stayed silent, and day by day the distance in his mind grew larger than the stars. At night, Jonah climbed to the roof of the habitat and lay on a narrow platform, watching the two moons rise. He closed his eyes and imagined Lena beside him, tracing constellations with a delicate finger. He craved the simple warmth of her presence. He wondered if she still drew alien landscapes, or if duty's unfortunate station kept her busy. He wanted to reach through the darkness and touch her hand, but he did not know how to bridge that gulf. One evening, Jonah found a small package on his desk. It bore Lena's neat handwriting, a reminder of home. Inside, he discovered the sketchbook he had given her before leaving, and the little music box that played the tune he had taught her on the simulator. He opened the sketchbook and saw drawings of the colony's fields, reimagined in wild, impossible colors, skies and violet trees. He wound the music box. Its soft melody filled the silent room, and memories of their conversations flooded back. His chest tightened with both joy and sorrow. Holding those treasures, Jonah felt his human spirit stir. He knew that humanity could overcome any barrier with creativity and will. If Lena could send him hope across the galaxy, he could send hope back. He just needed the right idea. He sat at his work table and examined the habitat's COM terminal. The colony's uplink could send data packets, but only certain file formats were allowed. He remembered Lena's public audio logs, where she described the station's dawn, and signed each one, "Your friend Lena." Those logs felt like postcards from her soul. Inspired, Jonah decided to create his own log series. He programmed a small rover to follow him as he walked the fields at sunrise. He attached a simple recorder and began speaking into the mic. "I walked under twin suns today. The soil smells of promise. I think of you as these seeds grow." He described the patterns of sunlight on the crops, the gentle hum of the drone harvesters, and the distant calls of engineered songbirds. He spoke in clear, heartfelt sentences, hoping his voice would sound like a hand reaching out. Next, he took the sketchbook Lena had sent and scanned each page with a handheld sensor. He added his own sketches in the margins as rough drawings. A Fortunate Station, the messy bun Lena wore when she worked, her bright smile. He labeled each image from Jonah to Lena. He compiled everything into a digital package, adding the music box's melody as an audio track. It was his first gift to her, though it might take weeks to arrive. As he prepared the uplink, Jonah hesitated. What if she did not listen? What if the files never arrived? Doubt crept in. But then he remembered Lena's courage, how she had packed her memories into a crate and sent them across space just to remind him he was loved. That simple act had lifted his spirits when he felt most alone. He could not let fear stop him. With a deep breath, he hit send. Days passed. Jonah returned to his daily tasks, his mood lifted but his heart still anxious. He checked the transmission logs, watching the data packet move slowly through relays and satellite arrays. He imagined Lena receiving each file, feeling his voice, and seeing his sketches, pictured her face lighting up with the same hope she had given him. Finally, a reply came, a brief hollow message from Lena. Her eyes were bright. She held up his first audio log on a screen. She looked into the camera and smiled, saying, "It's perfect. I feel like I'm walking beside you." Jonah watched. Her words echo through the dome. For the first time in months, he felt the distance shrink. Though light years apart, they had found a way to stand together under the same human sky. Jonah turned his gaze upward, where the moons floated in silent vigil. He whispered, "We'll be here for each other, no matter how far." His hope burned like a beacon amid the alien dawn. Humanity's spirit, resilient, inventive, and unbreakable, had once again built a bridge across the stars. And with each sunrise, he knew they would walk it together. Lena woke before dawn, her heart racing with a mix of hope and nerves. Last night, she had received Jonah's package of audio logs and sketches. The holocom had flickered to life, showing his smiling face in the golden fields of Colony H47. Behind him, she pressed play and heard his voice describe the sunrise under twin suns. Her chest swelled with pride that he had reached out to her, and a new determination lit her eyes. She replayed the logs again and again. Jonah's words were clear and warm. "I walked under twin suns today. The soil smelled of promise. I think of you as these seeds grow." Each sentence felt like his hand reaching out across the void. Lena sat at her drafting table and opened her sketchbook. The page showed his field sketches in soft pencil, rolling dunes, angled light, a single rover's tracks. Around those drawings, she added her own lines, flowers reaching toward the suns, and in one corner, a tiny figure waving. As morning light crept through her window, Lena decided she could not stay silent. Humanity's strongest trait was its creativity, she reminded herself. If Jonah could send hope across light years, she could send hope back. She powered up her holocom and recorded her first response. Simple English, she spoke of her day on Fortunate Station, the hiss of air vents, the gentle hum of the library, where she studied alien flora and the way the station's gardens bloomed under her care. She described how each new bud reminded her of Jonah's courage. Next, Lena scanned her new sketch page and bundled it with her audio response into a digital file. She added a short music clip, the opening notes from the music box he had sent. Her fingers trembled as she pressed send. She watched a progress bar inch across the screen, imagining her message traveling through satellites and relays, spanning the yawning distance between them. When the upload finished, she exhaled, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. Days passed slowly. Lena buried herself in projects, mapping new alien seed samples, designing murals for the station's corridors, and mentoring younger cadets. Yet she carried Jonah's logs in her mind. Each time she felt lonely, she hummed his tune and pictured the twin suns rising over distant hills. She kept to her promise. She would not let silence win. She would build a bridge of words, art, and song between herself and Jonah, no matter how far away he stood. One afternoon, Lena found a message waiting in her holocom inbox. It was from Jonah again. Her heart pounded as she opened it. The screen showed his weathered hands holding her sketch of the station's garden. His voice said, "Lena, your flowers bring light to this place. I carry them with me." He described studying her drawings by the glow of the habitat lamps, and how each line reminded him of her laughter. Tears filled Lena's eyes, but they were tears of joy and renewed strength. She realized that their bond was more than shared memories, was the living proof of human spirit. In every message, they exchanged pieces of themselves, forging a connection that no amount of space could break. Lena smiled and leaned close to the holocom as if she could touch his face through the screen. "Thank you," she whispered. "You give me hope." That evening, she stood on the observation deck, looking at the vast blackness beyond the station's glass walls. Stars glittered like scattered gems, and glowing nebulae painted the darkness with swirls of color. Lena raised her hand and gently touched the glass, imagining Jonah doing the same on his side of the galaxy. She thought of how they had both taken risks, he by sending his first logs, she by sending her first replies. Each act had been an act of faith in humanity's power to connect. Lena reached into her pocket and pulled out a small model rocket she had built for the station's youth outreach program. She wound it up and let it fly across the deck, where it glided on magnetic tracks toward a control panel. With a key press, the rocket's engine whirred and tiny lights blinked along its side, spelling out the message, "Together." She watched it circle the observation ring twice, then stop before her. Her breath caught. The rocket was one of the station's test prototypes. It had never been used for messages. But with a few code tweaks, she had programmed it to send. A short transmission burst directly to Colony H-47's cum loop. It was her own small human invention, a reminder that ingenuity could overcome delays and filters. As the rocket flashed its lights, Lena felt the full weight of her HFY spirit, persistent, inventive, unbroken. Later that night, Lena received Jonah's reply to the rocket message. His voice crackled with delight. "I saw it, Lena. The word together lit up my dome."
You amazed me.
He laughed, and she could practically hear the echo of his laughter in her own ears. "Your rocket is brilliant," he continued. "It feels like you're here, building beside me." Lena pressed her hand to her heart. The distance between them had not vanished, but it had grown smaller in their minds. Every message, every sketch, every note of music formed a chain linking them across the stars. She thought of all the challenges ahead, new missions, harsh environments, the unknown. And she knew this, as long as humans held fast to hope, creativity, and each other. No frontier was too distant, and no bond too fragile. Humanity's spirit would always find its way home. Jonah woke before the colony's twin suns rose. His body felt heavy with longing. He remembered Lena's last message, the little rocket spelling out "Together." He touched the HOLO-cum terminal as though it were her hand. Then he sat up straight. Humanity's greatest strength was its will to act, and he would not stay idle. He dressed quickly in his terraforming overalls and grabbed his datapad. Today he would create something that crossed the void between worlds. He thought of the station's empty art alcova, small gallery space meant for visiting creators. No one had used it since the last cultural envoy left. Jonah smiled. He would fill that alcove with Lena's art and his own additions. It would be his way to share her world with everyone here and to send her a new kind of message. In the gallery's soft light, Jonah carefully unrolled a protective sleeve. Inside was Lena's latest sketch of Fortunate Station's gardens, alive with alien flowers and humming drones. He pinned it to the wall. Next, he added his own work, rough pencil drawings of the colony's mass driver rail, the dark hills beyond the habitat dome, and the night sky where Earth's stars still shone. He placed them beside her sketches, side by side, as though they stood together. Each stroke spoke of their shared dreams. Around the room, he placed small audio speakers. He loaded them with Lena's messages and his own voice logs. He arranged them so that one could walk from piece to piece, hearing both their voices in turn. At the center, he positioned the music box he had sent her. Its lid was open, the tune ready to play when someone wound its key. Jonah stepped back. The alcove glowed with human creativity and hope, linking two worlds in one space. He activated the gallery's holoprojector and recorded a short invitation. "Friends of Colony H-47, his voice said, steady and warm, "you are invited to a new exhibit, United by Distance. Here are the works of my friend Lena Hale, from Fortunate Station, and my own humble additions. Together, we share our worlds." He scheduled the message to broadcast at noon, when most colonists paused their work to listen. After he left the gallery, Jonah returned to his routine, checking drone efficiencies, adjusting soil pH levels, saving data logs. But in his mind, he saw colonists exploring the exhibit, pausing before Lena's art and hearing her gentle words. He pictured their faces lighting up when they heard the little music box, as he and Lena did. His chest warmed with pride. He had built a bridge not just for himself and Lena, but for every human heart here. At midday, the hollow announcement filled every habitat terminal. Jonah watched on his cum display as colonists streamed into the gallery. A group of engineers leaned in to hear Lena's description of station coolant systems. A family of settlers admired his sketches of alien sunsets. Laughter and quiet awe drifted through the speakers. Jonah felt tears slip down his cheeks. Humanity's spirit, its creativity, its drive to connect was alive in this small dome. He realized that by sharing his bond with Lena, he had given strength to everyone around him. That evening, Jonah returned to the gallery. The alcove was nearly empty now, but the music box remained wound. He approached it and gave it a gentle turn. The familiar melody tinkled through the silence. He closed his eyes and let the notes carry him back to Fortuna's station, to Lena's bright smile. He whispered, "I feel your hope here." He sat on a low bench and opened his come again. He recorded a new message for Lena. "Today our friends walked through your art and heard our words. They smiled and asked how two people so far apart could feel so close. I told them, it is the human will to connect that makes any distance shrink. Thank you for teaching me that." He added a short sketch of the music box's keys and sent the file. Days later, Lena replied. She'd watched a recording of the exhibit's opening and saw the colony's people greeting her art. She said her heart overflowed with pride and wonder. She wrote that she would prepare new drawings of the station's bright library, the gardens in bloom, the laughter of young cadets, and send them through the next rover shipment. She believed their shared project could inspire others across the stars. Jonah read her words under the glow of the colony's 2 moons. He let her hope wash over him. He imagined her unpacking his sketches in that distant gallery on Fortuna's station. Lena pressed her palm against the cool glass of the gallery window on Fortuna's station. Inside, her sketches and Jonah's field drawings glowed under soft lights. She had arranged his rough pencil lines of twin suns and winding rover tracks. Beside her, bright flowers and humming drones. On small speakers, their voices played in turn. His reporting on soil tests, hers describing new alien seedlings. Lena watched as young cadets paused to listen, their faces curious and kind. Her heart swelled. Even far away, she and Jonah could inspire others with hope and creativity. Later, Lena sat at her drafting table, gazing at her unused holocom. She typed a message to Jonah, but deleted it again and again. "Thank you for the exhibit," she wanted to say. "I feel connected," but the words felt too small. She needed something bigger, something human and bold. She glanced at her bookshelf and saw the model rocket he had sent her. A spark of an idea flickered. If he could send her one, she could send him one Baka message in motion. That evening, Lena gathered station parts, microlight emitters, magnetic glide tracks, and a tiny transmitter. She worked by the glow of her desk lamp, soldering wires with steady hands. Each click of her tools reminded her of Jonah's courage under alien suns and her own strength to rebuild bonds. When the device was ready, she wound it around the model rocket, programming it to carry a short data burst to Colony H-47's habitat network. The burst would open a private hololink directly to Jonah. She tested it once, then packed it for courier drop-off. At sunrise, Lena handed her creation to a droid courier. She whispered to it, "Deliver to every docking bay on H-47. Tell Jonah it's for him." The droid's optical sensors blinked, then it rolled away with her package. Lena watched it go, imagining her rocket gliding across the silent void of space. She felt a flutter of excitement and hope. Humanity could bridge any gap with invention and will. She smiled, certain that her message would reach him like a beam of dawn. Days passed slowly on Fortuna's station. Lena filled her hours with botanical research and mentoring new cadets. She sketched alien ferns and sent small seed samples to the gallery as living additions to their exhibit. Yet her thoughts returned, again and again, to Jonah. She pictured him receiving her rocket, hearing her words, feeling less alone under those twin suns. Every time she felt doubt, she hummed the tune from the music box he had sent her. Its gentle melody reminded her that they could overcome silence. One afternoon, her holocom lit up with a private link. Lena's heart thundered as she tapped the icon. There he was, Jonah's face framed by Colony H-47's twilight sky. Behind him, habitat domes glowed like lanterns and distant hills stretched under orange light. He held the little rocket in his hand, its lights blinking around the central transmitter. "Lena," he said, voice thick with emotion, "you did it. I'm here." The transmission crackled but held steady. Lena laughed through tears, her HFY spirits soaring. Jonah guided his rover into view, and Lena saw him step out onto the dusty plain. He wound the rocket's tiny key, and it whirred to life, sending her short message, "Together always." His voice echoed over the link. "Your rocket carried your words straight into my heart," he said. "I feel your strength here." Lena put her hand over her chest. She told him about the cadets who listened in the gallery, how they smiled at her art and his endings. She felt pride in their shared impact. They talked until the record buffer filled, exchanging stories of sunrise, of new discoveries, of small victories in empty places. Lena described a new flower seed that bloomed under UV lights. Jonah showed her a painting he had made of the station's steel corridors, brightened by her murals. With each word, the distance seemed to shrink until it felt like they were side by side. When the link ended, Lena's eyes were bright with hope. She knew their bond was stronger than ever. That night, Lena lay under Fortuna Station's artificial sky and closed her eyes. She thought of Jonah standing beneath his twin suns and felt the warmth of human connection travel across light years. They had turned sadness into action, distance into invention, and fear into unity. Humanity's spirit lived in every message, every sketch, and every hopeful heart. Lena smiled and drifted to sleep, dreaming of the day she and Jonah would meet again together under the same sky. Proof that human hope can span any stars. Lena walked slowly through the quiet halls of Fortuna Station, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. Though she passed dozens of cadets and officers, she felt alone. Every corner of the station reminded her of Jonah, the bench by the oxygen gardens, where they used to share snacks and stories, the narrow walkway near the observatory, where he once surprised her with a tiny drawing of Earth. Those moments felt like warm memories wrapped in sadness. Jonah had been gone for months now. Messages came sometimes, but they were slow and often short. Lena understood Colony H-47 was far away, and life there was busy. But she missed him deeply. The kind of missing that didn't go away even when she smiled, the kind that made her heart heavy even when her day was full. One afternoon, Lena sat at the back of the station library, surrounded by books about human history. She opened a file about Earth's first explorers, those who crossed oceans with wooden ships, not knowing what they would find. She read about how they wrote letters home, trusting that somehow through storm and sea those letters would reach their loved ones. It gave her an idea. "I can write a letter," she whispered to herself. But not just any letter. Lena wanted to make something special, something Jonah could hold, not just read on a screen. Something that showed her hope, her strength, and how much she still believed in their connection. It had to be personal. It had to feel like her. She pulled out her sketchbook and began to draw. She drew her days at Fortuna Station, the humming corridors, the bright green of the oxygen gardens, the glow of stars outside the windows. Then she added little images from their time together, a laughing face, a paper glider he once folded for her, and a tiny rocket flying through space. She wrote beside the drawings, using simple, honest words. "I miss you more on quiet days. I listen to your voice logs and pretend you're walking beside me, but I'm proud of what you're doing. We humans go far. And even when we're apart, we don't let go." When she finished the letter, she folded the pages carefully and placed them in a small case with a clear lid. She added a pressed flower from the station's garden, a little blue bloom Jonah had once called perfect. Lastly, she added a tiny charm, a sun and a moon carved from old metal scraps, joined by a chain. "So we remember," she said. "We share the same sky." She brought the case to the cargo bay. A shipment was scheduled to leave for Colony H-47 at dawn. It would take weeks, maybe more. But Lena believed her message would arrive. Humans always found a way. As the cargo droids sealed the case and loaded it into the shuttle, Lena stood watching, her hands clasped in front of her. She whispered, "Go safe. Bring 'em my heart."
The next few weeks felt quieter than ever.
She kept herself busy training new cadets, updating plant records, painting more panels in the hallways. But every evening she looked out the observatory. window and whispered the same words, "I hope you got it." Then one night, her holocom lit up. A message had arrived from Jonah. Her heart leaped as she opened it. The screen showed Jonah holding her case. He wore a thick coat, wind blowing behind him as he stood outside the colony dome. His face was bright with emotion. "Lena," he said, voice shaking, "I got your letter. I got your sky." He opened the case on screen, showing her drawings. The flower, the charm, this brought you here, to me. I kept wondering how to feel close to you again, and now I do. He turned the camera, showing a little shelf in his cabin. On it, he had placed her drawings, the charm hanging from a hook, and the flower in a sealed cup with lights to keep it alive. "Every time I see this, I remember your hope. I remember why we came to the stars, not just to survive, but to stay. Human, to stay connected." Tears ran down Lena's cheeks, but she was smiling. She sent back a simple message: "Together, always." That night, she fell asleep listening to the wind outside the station and the hum of systems around her. The first time in weeks, she didn't feel alone. Her message had reached him. Her voice, her drawings, her heart had crossed light years. This was the true power of humanity, not ships, or machines, or speed, but the will to stay close, even when far. The courage to reach out, again and again, and the hope that one day, the ones we love will reach back. In the silent stars above, Lena knew, distance could not break what they had, not when hope traveled faster than light. Jonah sat alone in the quiet lab dome of Colony H-47, watching raindrops slide down the reinforced window. Outside, the colony's weather system was simulating a soft rain, meant to keep the soil moist for crops. But to Jonah, it just made everything feel more silent. He sipped cold tea and stared at the small shelf where Lena's drawings sat, bright colors, warm lines, tiny sketches of her days at Fortuna Station.
Ow.
Her charm of the sun and moon still swung gently from its hook. He missed her more than he could put into words. The last message she sent, the handmade letter with the pressed flower and tiny drawings, had brought him such joy. But after that, nothing had come through. Maybe a delay in the network. Maybe she was too busy. Maybe he shook the thought away. Jonah opened his holocom, scrolling through old messages. Her voice logs, her sketches, her stories of new cadets and blooming plants, they still made him smile. But now, even those recordings felt like memories instead of moments. The distance between them was more than just space, it was silence, and silence hurt. That night, Jonah lay on his cot, staring up at the curved ceiling. The twin moons cast soft light through the high window. I wondered what Lena was doing. Right now, was she thinking of him? Did she still sit by the observatory window like she used to, drawing stars and humming her favorite song? He missed her voice. He missed the way she made the world seem softer, even when everything around them was made of metal and rules. "I wish I could just talk to you," he whispered. But then, slowly, a thought came to him. Maybe he couldn't talk to her directly, but he could still speak, still share, still remind her that he was here, that he cared, that humanity never gives up, not when something matters this much. He sat up. He opened his cum system and began to record. "Hi, Lena," he said softly. "I don't know if this will reach you soon, but I wanted to try anyway. I miss you." He paused, then looked out the window again. "It's raining today." Simulated, of course. "It smells like earth rain. I think you'd love it. I walked the fields earlier, and I kept thinking about your garden back on the station. Remember that vine you couldn't get to stop growing? I hope it's still winning." He smiled at the thought. "I've been working on a new crop pattern. Nothing fancy. But I carved your initials into the dirt just before planting. Every time I pass them, I think of you. Guess that's my way of feeling close." He lifted the small charm she gave. Him, letting the camera capture it. "You gave me this to remember that we share the same sky. And we do, don't we? Even if mine has 2 moons and yours has starfields." Jonah's voice shook a little, but he kept going. "I know we're far. And sometimes I feel like I'll never be close to you again. But I also know this. Humans don't give up." He sent rockets across black space just to say, You matter. We paint and write and build little charms, just to stay connected. That's what makes us who we are. He breathed in, then added, so I'm sending this, even if it takes weeks. Even if it gets buried in other data, because I believe you'll hear it. And I believe we'll find our way back somehow. He ended the recording and uploaded it to the long-distance relay. Then he sat back, tired but lighter. Over the next few days, Jonah kept himself busy. He taught some young engineers how to balance heat levels in the power cores. He helped fix a broken drone. But at night, he still watched the skies, waiting. One evening, just as he finished another system report, his cum blinked. A new message. He opened it quickly. Lena's face appeared, smiling and soft, with a golden glow behind her, probably sunset over Fortunus Station. Her voice came through clear and warm. Jonah, she said, I got your message. It made me cry. Good tears. She laughed gently, brushing hair from her face. The vine is still growing. It's actually tangled around my desk now. Want to cut it? I think it's my little reminder that life finds a way just like us. She held up her own charm, matching his. I listen to your voice at night, and when I look at the stars, I feel you beside me. I don't know when we'll see each other again, but I know we will. And until then, we'll keep building these bridges of words and hope. Jonah couldn't stop smiling. Lena finished by saying, no matter how far we are, we'll always be human. And humans always find each other. As the screen faded, Jonah whispered, yes, we do. And out in the quiet night, under the moons and stars, a small light of hope burned bright inside his heart. Distance could not stop it, because human hope, true human hope, never fades.